Welcome to the Blueprint. I am elated today to be joined by my very good friend, beautiful human being, mother, wife, and many other things, Carrie Starr. She is the founder of GLYSA. She's a wellness facilitator for educators and kids, and she is co-founder of Evolve Mindful Market. Carrie, it's so beautiful to be with you today.
Marley, I love you so much. Thank you so much for having me today.
Is my absolute pleasure. I'm so excited for the whole world to hear your story. And so, starting off, would love to just kind of hear a little bit about you and really
Yeah.
what you'd like to share about your story and the start of GLYSA.
Yeah. Thank you again. Just I'm so grateful for this opportunity to connect with you today and just continue to like spread the just absolute journey of like transformation and unfolding and unbecoming and what it's meant for me and so many other women that I've really had the pleasure of encountering in the last really 2 years. It's really just been this very short frame of time, but within that frame, it's been the most powerful and profound experiences I've ever had and friendships that I've been the just witness of and just like the beauty of the friendships that I've had have changed my life. So they've meant the absolute world to me. Um, but I think like all of us, our unbecoming and our journey begins with this like metamorphosis moment where the light switch turns on and you can no longer turn it off. And my story is very similar to a lot of people's stories in that kind of realm where it just I had a situation where um I was just going about my world and my day and my life and had something happen to my vision, which then had my doctor advocate for me and say, I'd like you to go get an MRI. She was kind of like, it's probably nothing, but let's have you give it a whirl and make sure that it's nothing. And with that MRI, they found an unruptured aneurysm on the main one of the main big parts of my brain and it just was like this moment of clarity for me where the doctors were able to go in and fix it with ease within a month and it was taken care of, but it was this awakening for me that was what I'd been waiting for. I kind of just felt like, okay, Carrie, like you have been saying you're going to do all these things with your life. You've been waiting for what to happen in order for you to begin. And I just kind of woke up and said, I'm no longer going to live in fear. I'm no longer going to say tomorrow. I'm going to say today. And that's what I did. And it started very simply with, asking a friend to go for a run, and then meeting new people and inviting the light in and really embracing myself for who I am and loving myself. And that was probably the deepest lesson that I learned is just truly loving who I am and the journey that I had been on before and every part of the journey. Um, so yeah, I think that's what transcended me into this new phase of the world that I'm in. And um, I have seen and been a part of so much beauty because of that awakening. So I'm so grateful for it. And I'm so grateful to be here with you now talking about this next phase of life, which is GLYSA.
My gosh, first of all, wow, I didn't even know about the brain aneurysm. I don't know how in our friendship, I mean, we've only met in the last couple years, but our
Yeah.
friendship has escalated quickly, as I am very, very glad to say. But wow, what a wild experience. And it's
Mhm.
so interesting because you described so many different moments where there are really radical kind of choice points as to how you choose to view that experience. And,
Hmm.
an experience like that could really create deep fear. And you really chose the opposite. You chose to run in the opposite direction. And it is wild because oftentimes you hear about people with awakenings coming from, stemming from really extreme events, extreme life events or tragic life events. So, and I know a lot about your life and history and all different avenues of the beautiful transformation and learning you have gleaned throughout your life. And as a former principal and educator, you know,
Hmm.
you've seen so many perspectives and are such a brilliant mind of observation and learning. What really presented or brought GLYSA into your awareness? And talk about what GLYSA is and what really you intend to support with GLYSA.
Yeah. Marley, I think like all of us, we kind of go through these different phases of life, and now I kind of look at them as my dear friend Margot kind of coins them mini deaths, where
Mhm.
like you go through all of these transitions and changes and things in your life that happen. And you can, just like you were saying, you can kind of glean towards this avenue of an awakening, or you can maybe look at it in a different way introspectively. And I've spent the last 20 years in education, and I've like through those many deaths that I've had in my career, I've always thought it was something I did. I thought it was something that was wrong with me. Like, why is this like job not fulfilling me? I love education. It's my purpose. It's my passion. Like, why am I getting so burnt out? Why is this not fulfilling me in my life? Like, I just kind of always looked like there was something wrong with me. And I burned out. As much as I knew from the age of 8 years old that I was going to be an educator, um, I I felt like a failure in it because I couldn't do the job anymore that I loved. That became so much a part of my identity. So I burned out and I left, and it took me that experience to really understand that that job wasn't my identity. It was all of the parts of myself that I now value as who I am that made me good at that job. And without that job, I am still that person, that I don't need that identity to be me, to be Carrie, because that always lives inside of me. And I needed to leave in order to understand that. And that was probably one of the biggest things that I've learned through this experience is that, sometimes it's just the most beautiful thing to look inside yourself and realize that you can find your own peace. And whether that be just, a day that you're having kind of a bad moments and you're just like, oh man, I just can't get through this day. Or if it's a career that you feel stuck in, you can make your own peace. And that's what GLYSA is to me. It's taking all the parts that I loved about working in schools and bringing it home to myself. Because the things that I loved the most were the kids and the teachers. Teachers are the most beautiful souls on this planet Earth. If you are a teacher and you are giving yourself to the energy of other people to teach in order to help them grow, to me, there's no greater gift you can bring to this planet. And there's so many teachers on our planet. I know we've had this talk, Marley, that it doesn't just mean a teacher in a school. it's a mentor, it's a coach, it's, your people in your life that guide you, that give you the wisdom that you need. We are all teachers at our core in some capacity. Um, and so those people I really just want to value and hold and make sure to take care of. And then children are the light of this world. And I think that they have so much wisdom that we sometimes glaze over because we use that just term of their children. But the fact that they're open in their innocence and their creativity means that they are some of the wisest souls we have walking this planet. So, for me, it's those two categories of people are just why I loved being in school so much and why it hurts so bad to leave. So, you know, that's what GLYSA is. It's making sure to care and hold for those people because working in those schools in those environments made me realize how much we undervalue them in our society. And it just is a deep wound for me. So anything that I do moving forward is going to make sure that I lift up their voices, I lift up their stories, I lift up their lives in order to make sure that they are cared for, they're heard, and they are living and walking this planet with like beautiful hearts and filled hearts and just make sure that everybody wraps their arms around them and see them for the beautiful people that they are.
So many gems of wisdom in that. And I want to reflect three things that I think are so powerful. Firstly, your initial following of your purpose that you knew when you were 8 of being an educator and in education, and how, you found yourself in frustration, but it was really not, well, I'm sure it was very complex about the systems of education and the structures, but also just
Hmm.
that overarching, force that so many of us, we all feel at various points in our lives more than others around external validation and assigning our value and worth to the job that we have, how much money we have, the car that we drive, any number of things. But basically taking that experience and then recognizing, like, I love this. I love these people. I
Hmm.
empathize deeply with what they go through, and I see their light. I see the beauty in the hearts of these educators. And then, of course, our children. And what's wild is, when you get on a spiritual path and like we do, deeply, deeply believe in eternal energy and, reincarnation. And I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth. I know that I'm
No,
not, but
you
like,
know you're not. Yeah.
yeah, it's our kids, they are teachers. They are truly such
Hmm.
teachers and they have so much wisdom. And so I love that you took all of these things and created GLYSA with this higher vision of how people, these truly important people, could be and deserve to be supported in ways that can bring themselves inner peace. Because, of course, when we all have inner peace, we bring inner peace to the world around us, literally and figuratively, with our frequency and our presence. So I love that so much. And GLYSA's tagline is "Be the One."
Hmm.
And I love it. And I want to hear from you what it means. But even like from my perspective, I almost feel it's like multi-pronged, where it's almost like a tagline for yourself. Like
Yeah.
for you to step into your magic and your, into the spotlight in a way, because we've talked about this, on our own time, just about the discomfort sometimes of like sharing your voice and stepping into the spotlight to be the one, quote unquote. So would love to
Hmm.
hear about really what that means relative to your
Yeah.
life and relative to GLYSA.
Yeah. So, back in the day when I was an administrator, I used to work in private Catholic schools. And this one private Catholic school that I worked in that was in the east side of Milwaukee that just had the most beautiful demographic of all these different kids from all these different walks of life. And just the east side of Milwaukee, it was a beautiful community. It was my kids' first school. Um, we did an experience every single year with all the teachers where we would do a service day, and then we would go for a walk at Holy Hill. And at Holy Hill, they have this beautiful walk that you do, that you go through all the stages um, up until Jesus's death. And so we walk it together. Each person reads a different stage, and then you get to the end and you get up to the top of the hill. And we just had a silent kind of retreat and time to journal and reflect. Um, and it was just like this beautiful experience with all of these people where we were just quietly like reflecting and thinking about this voyage that Jesus made to die. And it was just kind of like transforming to me because I am not a Catholic and I'm working in a Catholic school, but I just embraced that experience. And then at the end, we went to this little gift shop and I found this little bracelet with this note on it that said, "Be the one." And it was a Mother Teresa prayer. And she wrote this prayer about being the one and being the light and being the one in the middle of the darkness to spread Jesus's love and his light. And to me, because, I do not associate with a specific faith, I looked at that as like being the one to be the light in other people's life and be the one to be the light in yours. And whether that be just smiling at a stranger, whether that be like calling someone that you deeply love when you know that they're hurting, being the light and being the one is just something that is so touching and heartfelt to me. And they had her inscription of how she wrote it, in like her handwriting on the little prayer. And I have it tattooed now on my heart.
Oh my God.
And just as a reminder to be the one in my life. And like, it's so funny, Marley, because um, looking back now, that was probably one of the hardest times of my life. And I didn't know how meaningful that would be
Wow.
until like a year ago. I had this thing tattooed on my body and I knew the deep meaning of it, but I couldn't really feel it or completely live it out until maybe just like a year or two ago. And so now it's just like, it's everything to me. It's my reminder. Those three words are so big in my life. And there's because it's such a simple little gift, right? Um, and I just think it's such a magical one because we can all do it every single day. Um, and I think that it's just a constant reminder that when I am in doubt, when I'm not sure what to do or where to go, I can always turn within
Wow.
and that I can like be the one for myself when maybe I'm not unsure of where to go next because I know I have the answers.
Wow, that's profound. What a story. And I think, you know, as we are basically mirrors to another, when
Hmm.
we turn our lights on, when we are the one bringing the light, which again is a choice point, every
Yeah,
day. And it's not like spiritually bypassing our hard feelings, but when engaging with others, really choosing to shine the light. And when we are able to shine our own light, we can help others to be able to see their light within. So that is
yeah,
absolutely profound. And also so interesting to highlight that oftentimes we get our most profound realizations, moments, and inspiration in times of darkness and in times of
Yeah.
uncertainty. And really, when we're kind of holding the tension between the known and the unknown. And
Hmm.
it can feel so scary in our world, which is told, which is so based on control and certainty and staying away and avoiding fear and scarcity, when
Hmm.
really that's where so much wisdom lies. I love
Yeah.
I love that so, so, so much. And you and I have talked a lot about education in general. And,
Hmm.
you know, I think we both have really amazing aspirations for how educational systems could really support more ideal learning environments for kids, optimal for flourishing. And,
Yeah.
my perspective, and I'm not putting words in your mouth because this is nothing you've ever said to me, but, you know, I feel as if our educational systems are really built on creating workers for the labor market, really
Hmm.
creating a system in which, it's almost a number one, allowing parents to work, so it's
Yeah.
taking kids away from families so that the parents have the time in the labor market, but then really facilitating an education that is really specific to a history that supports going to get a 9 to 5 job and doing XYZ things. So I see a lot of opportunity for change for our children. What do you see as an educational expert? What kind of, if you can imagine the most optimal future, what would that look like in terms of, indoor, outdoor time, or just like restructuring of curricula?
Yeah. I do think so much of now what we're teaching children is prescribed. And I think that that is part of the issue, right? Is that um, it's prescribed knowledge. And I think that, I was talking with a teacher not too long ago about how, they have a unit in fourth grade where they take the trip to Madison and they learn about their state of Wisconsin, right? I think, it's probably very similar in every state in some capacity, but there's like these little like pillars that you have to go through every single year that like are the markers for where kids should be or what they should learn. And I just don't think that should ever be the case. I think that learning is fluid and learning is dependent upon what that child's interest is and where their strengths lie. And I think that we take way too much time figuring out what kids don't know instead of what they do. So truly, the system is broken and has been broken for a very, very long time. And now that we are on the precipice of a very neurodivergent world, um, I mean, we're already there, you
Mhm,
know. Um, I think that we are we have been behind the curve in education time and time again.
mhm,
And right now it really needs to be rattled in a way that like we need to like completely break it down and restructure in order to really come up with any formative way of making sure that our children know how to be human beings.
mhm,
That's what we need to teach our children. We need to teach them how to be happy, thriving human beings on planet Earth. And that means how to take care of planet Earth and how to take care of yourself on planet Earth. And I think that we don't emphasize that at all in schools. I think that there are some schools that are actually doing a good job of that in some form. I think, Waldorf schools, I think Montessori schools, their mission has a lot to do with. Um, making sure you are a steward of your community and your environment. But I think we can go even deeper and further. The hard part with our schools is because we are so neurodivergent, we're trying to fit kids into boxes that they don't belong in. And that kids don't learn that way. People don't learn that way. So I just think that so much of what we are doing is outdated and it needs to come up, you know, and just completely be rerouted and redefined because it's just not working and it hasn't been working for a really long time. And you're right to say that it came from an industrialized age that, like, that we are just really trying to form children into working in a 9 to 5. And now it's become like almost embedded in our culture that kids go to school so that their parents can work.
Right.
And yeah,
I think it's like, recalibrating all that we do, including education, to align with human and planetary well-being. And,
yeah.
I was just reading Restoring the Kinship Worldview, and it's really about indigenous worldviews. And it's astonishing just the comparisons that they make to child rearing and how they culturally approach children. For example, when kids are 6, they're sent out at night into the woods to make friends with a spirit, like the spirit of an
Mm.
animal, a tree, a plant, something that gives them guidance. So it's basically building that sentient relationship with Mother Earth. And that
Hmm.
also, a telepathic or, a more deeply rooted spiritual connection. And so
Yeah.
apart from, the plethora of wisdom of, indigenous children learning deeply from nature, which I think brings so much inherent peace, both through the resonance and the grounding available through plants and, soil and the water. But secondarily, I read about a decade ago, I think the number one predictor of success, like for CEOs, was nervous system regulation. So like that's more prevalent in our, high growth, success, exponential kind of late stage capitalism ideas. So what's the mix there? It's like nervous system
Yeah.
regulation is human well-being, and then mix that with, more of a view of collaboration and depth of knowing and understanding with nature. So do you see the component of like nature being largely missing from education as a big thing to be focused on?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, we're more focused on how to give our children access to coding, to how to thrive in a technological world than any kind of nature-based world. And I think that that is doing such a disservice to us as human creatures. I've thought this for a few years now after watching my son, who's neurodivergent, kind of walk around the planet over the last 10 years. And um, to me, it seems that our species, who's the fastest evolving species to live on this planet, right? That putting a computer in front of us and in our hands has evolved us in a really, really fast way.
Mhm.
And I think that this connection between technology and neurodivergency and the influx that we have seen over decades, over the last few decades, is no coincidence.
Mm.
So it's just one of those things that if we are detaching from our technology, we do see a huge just balance come back in our bodies because we're connected with the very planet that created us. And I think the more we detach from it, the more that we are going to become disconnected.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I think I'm sure it's Albert Einstein that says you cannot fix a problem with the same thinking that you use to create the problem. And
Hmm.
that to me so profoundly speaks to the fact that all the so much money and funding is going into AI and also even technology for the climate, when truly in actuality what's been proven is that nature-based solutions in terms of carbon sequestration and really solving the climate crisis, investing in regenerative agriculture and soil rehabilitation and ocean rehabilitation and planting trees and funding mangroves, basically all these nature, like actual typical nature solutions that exist are better than us
Hmm.
investing our money into technology, even when it comes to solving the climate crisis itself. And so it is wild because it's like this prevalent idea of growth overtakes everything, including this scenario, and it even applies within our school systems as to how things are being approached. um
Yeah.
and I do think, like, with the neurodivergence, I can speak from experience living in the city. My child's really into, I mean, so into watching like Mr. Beast or Mark Rober or like these YouTubers that are doing science experiments or going and doing other things or playing Minecraft. But it's like the interest in that versus nature is like way out of whack in my opinion,
Yeah.
no matter what
Yeah.
I try to do, say, or like change. And it is just like technology has gotten so brilliant that it really takes our away, like our the economy is our attention, and it's like
Yeah.
owning our attention in such a deep way. um
Yeah.
do you have any other feelings about that? I know, I mean, I think we probably kind of agree.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I think like the most beautiful thing that you can do is get a group of children in nature and just let them run wild with no, like purpose, with no intention, with no preconceived notions of what they will experience. You just put them there
Yeah.
and they discover and explore all on their own. And I think, that's what school is to me. Like
And that,
truly, it's just giving them time to explore, use their imaginations, learn from one another. And we are their guides. You know, we are their ways of asking questions and seeking answers because so many times, I mean, I'm no different either, but like my kid, when they go to look for answers now, they immediately say, "Can I use your phone? Like, I want to look this up." But what if they just like thought of ideas on their own? Or like asked a wise person near them or asked someone a little bit older, like, what do you think? And like those experiences really shape who you are, more so than looking up the answer and having it just in your hand.
it's interesting because another aspect of the indigenous worldview, there's a story about this woman, two women, one indigenous woman and one non-indigenous woman, that bring their newborn babies to a park together
Mm-hmm.
as friends. And the indigenous woman brings nothing, just lets her child literally crawl in the grass and crawl all around and explore. And then the other woman brings a blanket and toys and basically is like telling the child not to touch the grass, not to touch the dirt. And it's interesting because I do think there's this, overarching for many, many years. And I think it's like Descartes that begins with this notion of nature as dangerous, and the outdoors as you could get hurt, you could get, there's bears, there's things that can harm you, when really
Mm-hmm.
like, that entire notion is such a disservice to humanity, because nature is our it's our life. It's our
Yeah.
it's our air, it's our food, it's our water. Um, Getting back to sort of your ideal vision, I mean, it sounds like nature is a part of it as far as like what you see
Yeah.
for the future for education.
Yeah, I think that like an ideal situation, and obviously these are just at these points um awareness, noticings, observations of when I see children thriving and happy and learning. And that's in smaller um class sizes, but that are like um sorry, I'm just like Wilder just called me, so
Oh
it
yeah.
like
Did you
totally threw
take
me off.
it?
No, 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 because he's upstairs, but it just like turned away my thinking for a
Yeah,
second.
totally.
Um, I think that um true learning happens through smaller groups that are multi-age with experiences on how to explore this planet and be a part of this planet and a steward of this planet. I think that's what school should be. And through through those experiences comes play. Through
Mm,
those experiences comes all of the tools you'll need in order to learn, those curricular areas of science and math and writing and reading, because you will need to read in order to like read a recipe. You will need to write in order to write down your thoughts. Like it's those experiences that we become passionate about the things that fill us up. And I think that's what learning should be. I think school for me is just like a really outdated um, term, because I think what really needs to happen is something brand new. And I don't think that school is the word for it anymore.
totally. Wow. And it really reminds me of sort of this trifecta of being able to be in community. So that's like the different age groups, being able to regulate your nervous system. So that's finding inner peace and being
Hmm.
able to be with nature and love and respect
Yeah.
nature, so collaboration with earth. And I mean, what a dream. And I love the idea of multi-age group because it's also, there's a social, so many different social aspects and benefits of that, but also just like
Hmm.
developing the heart and empathy and like, caretaking for young and old and how dynamic and diverse if you could like switch groups every day, like
Yeah.
I mean, I love that idea. And do you think an idea of a learning environment like that would have to be sort of like microcosms or like small in nature just to, maximize, I guess even maximize as a term is kind of like not really fitting this because it's really about experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, one of the main things that we need to make sure to remind everybody of is that when we learn through play, even as adults, our brains can create those synapses very quickly. We can make connections within our brains way quick. I mean, the research I think is like you need to do something 200 times if you're doing it pen to paper in order to fully encapsulate that new knowledge. In play, it's only 10 to 20.
Wow. That's a mic
So
drop. Wow.
when you're thinking about those experiences for children of all ages, it doesn't matter, that we could truly gain so much more knowledge through play, and it's reconnecting us to joy and
Absolutely.
reminder that, like, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of days my child doesn't want to go to school. It's because that's where he does not find joy there. And I think it's just like a missed opportunity to reconnect to all of our joy and remind ourselves that joy is a deep part of who we are as human beings. And we should be feeling it and in it all day long.
Yeah,
Like that should be the goal. I mean, we're not going to be joyful all day long. Like, let's be real. But we should find a way to connect to our joy every day.
I love
And
that.
why not have that be through learning, through exploring this world? And two, one of the most beautiful things that I've seen through multi-age learning is that especially it's beneficial, not just for the, you would think it would be most beneficial for the younger kids, but truly it's most beneficial for the older kids.
Mhm.
Because when older children are with younger children, it's almost giving them permission to play again.
Totally.
Be because like 10 and 12, 13, 14, like those age groups, like I think sometimes they think I'm too old to play, but you're not.
Oh
You're
my,
never too old to play, right?
Carrie, you're so
So,
brilliant. This is mind-blowing information. I think like any educator or administrator would be like so it's so simple but so profound.
but the
And
wild thing is, Marley, and I think this is the thing that really drives me up the wall. We know this. This research has been out for so long. We know that play-based learning is the best learning for kids. We know that.
right,
Educators know that.
I want to learn that way.
Principals know.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, every like people in education know this at the highest positions. And the fact that we know this information and we're not making changes, it's just like the same information we know about social emotional learning. We know that you need to be regulated in your mind and body in order to learn. But
Wow.
we don't prescribe that in schools as the very first thing we do on a daily basis. And why? It's because it's not the thing that gives us an A plus on our state report card as a school. What does? Our attendance numbers,
Oof.
our standardized test numbers, the numbers that really don't matter at all.
So it almost is like the systems are much more just about sort of like control than about really optimal learning scenarios or optimal environments or experiences. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because, storytelling is 7 times more powerful in creating neural pathways in the brain than data. Just so it's this
Mm,
similar to what you said around play-based learning. So like storytelling and play actually would be so much more profound and also like really amazing life skills to be able
yes.
to embody, those really be a professional, like an expert level play and storyteller would is like a gift of a lifetime. You know,
Yes.
that's amazing to have those skills along with the ability to regulate your nervous system. If you can get that social and emotional aspect at the very core of all of it. I mean,
Hmm.
that's really, really profound information. Wow. So you have such a high vision for where education could go. And I guess I mean, clearly this is known information, but do you think that people are changing and with regard to like this type of thinking? Is this happening all over? I know it's happening in small doses likely, but do you see inroads for change that or like do you think that this needs to be a new model? I feel like I've seen schools in like Amsterdam or in Europe that are kind of adopting more of these, definitely
Hmm.
in like Montessori. I know Montessori's similar. Um,
Yes.
but how do you think or do you see inroads for this coming to fruition in ways, or is it like Carrie GLYSA is going to be the one and start it?
I think that everybody hopes. I can tell you that working with educators, I think that they hope for it every day.
Mm,
I can tell you that because they know the benefits. I see. them, plead sometimes for these models. And it's just unfortunate that there's just so much red tape standing in the way of them doing their jobs in the way that they know best. That I
Wow.
think that's the most frustrating part. So that's why I'm saying like it's not up to the teachers because they're working in a broken system. They would if they could, but if they did, it would mean their jobs, right?
Wow. I mean, the bleeding hearts, these beautiful teachers that care so much and are such pillars of, light for our kids every day. They're game for this. That's amazing. And of course, not surprising either that that would
No.
be the case. Wow, there's
Yeah.
so much possibility. And what I love about this conversation is it's providing so many tools for anyone that's listening to think differently about how education
Hmm.
is structured in ways that are not complete. It doesn't like blow up, it doesn't make it feel out of reach or that it's too complicated. It like
Right.
distills it to some really basic and tangible actions. Wow.
Yeah. And
Okay, so
I think teachers do that in their classrooms as much as possible. They give their kids time to be humans and they give their kids time to play and they know that that is the best way to create a positive culture and relationship in their classroom, right? And um but then, that learning part is just something a little bit different. That's the hardest part. But you walk into a school and the teachers who are doing, the best work as far as like standard scores and things like that usually have the best relationships with the kids.
hmm, wow, wow. It's really interesting information, and I'm so grateful for all this wisdom. I'm learning so much. And I want to shift gears a little bit to talk about you recently have been partnering with our good friend Ashley, who's also going to be on the blueprint here soon,
Yeah.
to facilitate women's circles. And I'd love to hear
Yes.
about what that experience has been like and sort of like what you have seen and felt and heard from these learnings.
Yeah, I think it's been so beautiful, Marley. We have been titling our workshops SOS,
But
which means share our stories. And Ashley will tell you deeper where that came from and what that means because it's a beautiful story in and of itself. But it truly is like saving our souls and sharing our stories because when we share our stories, we really do unburden our souls. And not that we need to relive our trauma, but when we share our stories, we are giving it love and light, and maybe sometimes letting a little bit of it go so that the new can grow. And I can tell you that these workshops that are all centered around Ashley's beautiful book, Unhappy Achiever, have been not just for the people who show up, but for Ashley and I, because each person that shows up is now our sister. They share a part of their lives, they share their wisdom, they share their love. We are all now friends and in the sisterhood together. And it's the most beautiful experience that we've had. Um, as partners and doing work together in friendship. And I'm just so honored to be doing this work with her and just honored to meet every single soul that walks through the door and is a part of our circle. So I mean you are a part of that circle too, and you know how it feels like once you feel fully embraced by the friendships that you have around you, and it just feels like someone is really seeing you for who you are. And it just is the warmest embrace that you could ever feel.
oh my gosh, I love that. I literally felt water like pouring into my heart when you said that. 'Cause it does. It just feels like your heart is full, is like this
Yeah.
abundance of beautiful love and energy. It was funny. I had a couple girlfriends over last week for dinner, and they brought up the movie Past Lives, which I had never seen, but
Hmm.
it's this beautiful concept about this Korean idea, and I'm not going to remember the exact term, but it's that, we have all these lives, but basically everyone that we encounter in life, whether we like tap their shoulder walking by or what have you, is a version of a soulmate. And like basically every single
Mm,
human being that we connect with is a version of some kind of soulmate over time. So when you said, these women are now our sisters and soul, like soul sisters,
they
um,
are, yeah.
I feel that deeply, and I feel that deeply about you. So, thank
I
you.
feel that deeply about you too, soul sister.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for this gorgeous conversation. And I wanted to
Yeah,
so say, you're on vacation. So thank you
I
for tuning
am.
in from Costa Rica. This is awesome.
Oh my gosh, Puerto Rico.
Oh gosh, sorry. Okay. I'm like,
How do you read my mind though? Because I did say I want to go to Costa Rica today, next. So you're probably just going on that trip with me next.
I I would love to. I just interviewed Costa Rica's convention center about their sustainability initiative. So it's also just
Oh, it's on the brain.
it's on the brain. Okay, but thank you so much. And I just wanted to give you space for any other final words or thoughts, if
Hmm.
you have anything else to share.
I just had to move location so you could see. Um, yeah, I think I'm truly grateful for you for having these beautiful conversations and like shedding light on people and their work and their journeys. I think it's um some of the most important things that we can do is share our wisdom, share where we once felt broken and realize that we weren't broken, that we were whole, even when we felt that way. But now that we have been on the journey to really fulfilling and loving ourselves, we can see that so well. And if anyone out there is just kind of looking for sisterhood, that you now have sisters that are with you. And I think that's the biggest gift that I know I can give through these conversations is just offering sisterhood to anybody on this journey because
Um,
everybody needs it. And it's through the relationships that I have that have really made sure to support me even more than I could have ever imagined. So, thank you for giving me the opportunity to just share my story and uplift the beautiful work that all these beautiful people are doing on this planet. I love it so much.
Oh my gosh, you are doing such amazing work, and your vision is profound. And I just wanted to say, I wanted to bring up really quickly your dinner table talk card,
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
also how people can find you. But
yeah.
that I would love for you to share a little bit more about that too.
Sure. So you can find me on Evolve Mindful Market, which is a beautiful place where you can find wellness vendors through Mindful Market that we're doing on April 6th in Milwaukee. That's on Instagram, if Evolve Mindful Market. And then GLYSA Mind, Body, Spirit is also where you can find me to see any of the new workshop opportunities that are coming up. And that's also where you can find my dinner table talk cards, which are just like fun little connectors to spark conversation with your family, with your girlfriends, with your witchy sisters, whoever they may be. Yeah, just wanting deeper loving connection. And that's what Gliss is all about. And that's what the connection cards are all about. And that's what Evolve is all about too, connecting people with other people.
Love that. And to your final point previous to that, I just want to remind everyone out there, that you are not alone ever. No matter what you perceive, you are never alone. And I know this to be true both in my personal life and in my spiritual life. And regardless of your beliefs, I deeply believe you are guided by multiple beings, angels, guides, and your ancestors, as well as nature spirits of all shapes and sizes. So if that's not your bag, cool. But I just hope that you know that you are deeply loved unconditionally and supported no matter what, who, and where you are.